Good afternoon. I am Andrea Chisholm with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. Political commentator Dr. Paul Ashley believes that Prime Minister Andrew Holness should consider calling a snap election if People's National Party presidential candidate Peter Bunting wins the September 7 race. A general election is due by 2021. Dr. Ashley argues that calling the general election immediately after a victory would give the Prime Minister an advantage at the polls. He says that's because the party would be fragmented and they would not have enough time to reunite or get enough money to fund its campaign.
If Bunting wins, then there will be indications from the polls that there's a momentum. He will attract increased funding. He will hone his media campaign skills. He will attract a number of young voters, and in fact might take away some from the JLP. So you don't give him the opportunity to settle in. No, and not only that, remember you have serious wounds in the PMP if Bunting wins. So let us, make use of the opportunity.
However, Dr. Ashley argues that if Dr. Peter Phillips wins, there is no need for an early election. There has been a 3.2 percentage point reduction in the number of math passes in the Caribbean Secondary Education Certificate (CSEC) exams. The Ministry of Education gave details at a press conference a short while ago. Close to 33,600 students sat the exam earlier this year.
Maths and English language recorded percentage passes of 54.6% and 82.8% respectively. Let me pause here and just say that 54.6% is not acceptable. It's too low. And the ministry is embarking on a program that we expect will bring about an improvement in that area. That's an area that we have run out of time, and we've got to improve our output in terms of the performance of our students in mathematics.
Air traffic controllers across the island have served notice they are on the verge of taking industrial action. The Jamaica Air Traffic Controllers Association last night warned that normality cannot be guaranteed due to outstanding wage issues with the Finance Ministry. The association also complained that its 2017-2019 wage claim has not been settled. President of the association, Kurt Solomon, says the air traffic controllers are upset with how the Finance Ministry has been handling the matter.
But we have not been able to meet with anybody from the Ministry of Finance specifically about the negotiation process. In fact, they said to us plainly that they can't meet with us because their process outlines that they shouldn't meet with us as the stakeholders, which is ridiculous. But here we are now. We have been patient. We have waited. They are not coming to us with any answers. We only have one answer right now, one recourse, and we will take that action as soon as we deem that it is necessary to do so in terms of where we are, in terms of getting our answers and knowing where we are in this whole wage negotiation process.
Mr. Solomon says the air traffic controllers are prepared to take strong action.
And we're being very clear about that. At any time, we will contemplate withdrawing our service because we don't believe that this process is fair.
And there's an urgent appeal this afternoon for medical professionals experiencing sexual harassment from their seniors to make formal complaints. The appeal comes amidst claims that there have been no official reports. We have details in this report.
A newspaper report last weekend chronicled the experience of junior doctors who said they were afraid to speak out because of concerns they could be victimized. Speaking on RGR's Beyond the Headlines yesterday, President of the Jamaica Medical Doctors Association, Dr. Elon Thompson, said he would have preferred if the victims had made formal reports rather than going public.
I've not heard complaints on a wide scale. You will hear things, but I'm not one to believe hearsay until we get a formal report, because it's something clearly that is serious. I would have hoped, though, that we would have been able to deal with these matters internally than have them out in the public purview.
Head of the Medical Association of Jamaica, Dr. Clive Lai, has also joined the call for formal reports to be made. However, he says alleged victims must be prepared to show evidence of harassment.
I go back to evidence, evidence, evidence. The evidence is on the telephone. The name of the senior doctor should be on the phone. The conversation that they have had, the graphic photos, all of these things are evidence, and you can use it against the senior doctor because, you can make it go viral.
Which is why I said in those situations you can say, okay, I have the text, I have the pictures, I have whatever it is, but there are other situations in which you're not going to have that. The person will have said something or will have touched you and there won't be any other witness.
Yes, but then that doctor doesn't really have a strong case. They need to find some evidence.
In the meantime, President of the Nurses Association of Jamaica, Carmen Johnson, is calling for the establishment of a sexual harassment policy for the public health sector.
The persons who work within health, they have to develop it and then have that algorithm or that procedure in place where persons can have that confidence within the system and confidence within the persons who operate the system to say to them, this is the issue I'm having. Can you speak to such an individual without divulging that I'm the one who came to you at this given time? For persons you'll hear, they say that, well, if I say I may not get to move on to the next level, I may not get into my program, I may fail an exam. And it's across the whole health sector, not just in one profession. Yes. And so it is something that we have to address.
Ocean Masters, TVJ News.
Rohan Martin, who has been charged with the murder of his girlfriend, 29-year-old teacher Latoya Hill, is to return to the Portland Parish Court on August 21 for his case to be mentioned. Mr. Martin was charged on Sunday by detectives from the Criminal Investigation Branch in Portland. He was taken to court yesterday, but the matter was put off. Residents of David Lane in Port Antonio found Ms. Hill's body outside her house on the morning of July 30. The police were alerted and the body of the teacher was found on its back with what appeared to be a wound to the forehead. It also had a plastic bag over the head along with a pink plastic bag wrapped around the waist and the thighs. Traces of blood were also found inside the house. Mr. Martin surrendered to the police in the corporate area 2 days after the incident. And it's time for a break here on the Midday News, but stay with us. We have more stories right after this. Welcome back, and we're continuing the news. Drought conditions are having a serious impact on Western St. Mary. Jacks River and other springs have been a source of water for residents in the area, but the dry spell has taken a toll on the natural resources. Minister of Transport and Mining and Member of Parliament for St. Mary Western, Bobert Montague, raised the issue when he was speaking at the education grant ceremony last week in the parish.
We're struggling with right now is water. We have a serious drought, and a lot of people don't believe that we're having a drought, because some people believe it's just wicked, Bobby Montague wicked, why they're not getting the water.
He says that several of the springs used by the National Water Commission to provide water to places such as Gale, Fellowship Hall, Guys Hill and Bunnygate are no longer flowing. He added that plans have been put in place to deal with the issue and provide water to many sections as quick as possible.
Water Commission is doing is using the relief station by Miss Mirishap and sending some water now and again to Barclaystown and sending some down to the housing scheme. But that even at the housing scheme, some areas cannot get water because the water supply is limited.
But some residents, especially those in Jacks River, are still trying to adjust to the dry spell.
Yeah, the first I ever seen this river dry so far, and I born here. I'm born here from 1968. I'm a grew right here, so, and I first ever see this.
Well, that river is completely dried up. You can walk from a Rockabessa straight up to Fontabelle in the river and don't get wet.
Mayor of Spanish Town Norman Scott is reporting an increase in the number of burials per month at the newly established cemetery in St. Catherine. The cemetery officially opened its gate last August. We have details in this report.
No ordinary cemetery. That's how Mayor of Spanish Town Norman Scott is describing the Thetford Park Cemetery in Old Harbour, St. Catherine. Though not completed, Mayor Scott says the cemetery is a state-of-the-art facility. In an exclusive interview with TVJ News, the Old Capital's mayor outlined the features of a new established graveyard.
We have about 200 ready-made graves that are ready for use. I think they have them in different tiers. I think there is a 2-tier, which is 2 persons buried in one hole. We have about 200 of that. I think there's another 50 or 100 of the single burials.
In addition, the cemetery will have a section for children, which is currently under construction, as well as columbariums.
That part of it will soon be in operation. So all those funeral homes and those persons who have their urns at home, look out the Tedford Park in a very short space of time will be ready to accept urns.
Mayor Scott maintains that even though the cemetery operates for private burials, it is a public facility.
Thus, we cater for the challenged people, and I don't want to call them paupers, because we don't, but we cater for those persons who are below the poverty line. We cater for the ordinary burials, that those are persons who would go to a Commodore cemetery. We cater for them.
A year ago, the Tedford Park Cemetery had its first burial. Since then, there has been an increase in the number of burials per month at the facility.
At this point, I think we have had about 250 burials at the Tedford Park Cemetery.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
And the time now for a preview of what's coming up in this evening's health report.
In the next edition of the Health Report, we'll look at metabolic surgery, also known as bariatric surgery.
Yeah, a significant part of the health budget goes towards treatment of obesity and obesity-related conditions. Locally, we know a significant chunk of the NHF budget goes towards treatment of diabetes and hypertension. And we know that obesity increases your risk of diabetes and hypertension. So if we were to eliminate or significantly reduce obesity, we'd have a lot less diabetics, hypertensive around, and we'd have more money to treat other illnesses.
That's the Health Report this evening in Primetime News. And now for today's Healthy Living tip. Remember, you won't wake up thin after metabolic surgery. Don't try to do it alone. If you're thinking about surgery, it's important you have support. Recognize and confront a food addiction. Depression may be an issue for you, so get professional help and understand the risks of other addictions.
And in sports, Jamaican Chris Gayle scored a brisk half-century as the West Indies, deciding to bat, reached 158 for 2 at sports time in their third and final one-day international against India at the Queen's Park Oval. Gayle hit 8 fours and 5 sixes on his way to 72 from 41 deliveries before mounting his helmet atop his bat and waving to the Queen's Park Oval crowd. Evan Lewis also scored 43, while Shea Hope 19 and Shimron Hetmar 18 are the not-out batsmen. India leads the 3-match series 1-0 after the first encounter was abandoned. And that's the Midday News. I'm Andrea Chisholm. Join us at 7 for the Primetime News package. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, good afternoon.